Welcome everybody. I'm Maggie Womack. I'm the Mayor of Seaford. Welcome to you all, members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for today's meeting. Councillors and officers are reminded of their commitment to the civility respect pledge and to be mindful of this during tonight's meeting. Please be aware that the council is videoing this meeting and will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel in due course. I'd just like to highlight some of the key points of the meeting format. May I please make sure that everybody has their phones turned off or to silent. The fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escapes or through the main entrance by which you enter the building. In the event of a fire, the lift should not be used. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office in West Street. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. The toilet facilities are out in the corridor through which you entered. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a number of 4 minutes per person, and as Chair I will interject if I need to enforce this. When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show that you wish to speak and I will ask you to speak. If you're comfortable standing, please do so in order to ensure you can be heard across the room. You don't need to state your name when you start speaking if you don't wish to. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item in order to limit distraction to other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted out by a council officer. If the meeting goes into confidential session, a short 2-minute break will be held to allow members of the public to leave. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and to avoid interrupting where possible in order to enable others to follow that meeting. If any councillor feels concerned that any aspect of the meeting or discussion has concerns about any meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order and I will then gesture to you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the Council, I would like to thank everybody for attending this Council meeting, particularly on such a warm, busy evening. Thank you. Right, first of all, we have apologies. Clark, do we have any apologies for tonight?
Thank you, Chair. So we have 6 apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Bristow and Councillor Rutland, who are both unwell. And we have apologies from Councillor Horo, Sylvia Honeyman, Richard Honeyman and Adeniji for personal commitments.
Can I add Councillor Ruth Sturton, who has a family commitment?
I did that. Okay. And I would add that if councillors wish to leave early, could they, a couple have already notified that they need to add early. If you'd just like to put your hand up as you leave and we will note you're leaving. Thank you very much in anticipation. Right, agenda item 2, disclosure of interest. Do any councillors have a disclosure of interest to declare? This is to deal with any disclosures by members of disclosable pecuniary interests and interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Do we have any disclosures? No. At any point in the meeting, if a councillor feels they may have an interest to disclose, please raise this straight away and officers can provide advice. Okay, item agenda 3, public participation. This is to deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public physically in the meeting in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. If any members of the public are looking to speak, please raise your hand in order to tell me that you wish to speak and I will invite you to speak. And please be reminded you have a maximum of 4 minutes and avoid repeating comments of others.
Yes, I'm on.
Right, the gentleman at the front on my right first of all, followed by the lady behind him afterwards. So the gentleman on the front row first. Yes, I got you, yes. Gentleman on the front, please, first. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm David Joyce. I represent the Friends of Sutton Downs, but I could be speaking for myself as well, actually. This is about the agenda item 19, Devolution Priority Programme Update. Interests me because of the possible asset moving from Lewes District Council to Seaford Town Council. And this, in the minutes you've got the process of identifying potential district council assets that the town council may be interested in acquiring under the local controlled transfer. Well, there's a couple of pieces of land, and I'm going to mention now that can also, basically, this is my question, and the whole crux of it is: can the working group please consider the Sutton Downs Leisure Centre and the Walmer Recreation Ground as assets to be added to the transfer from Lewes District Council to Seaford Town Council. They both sites seem to be unprotected, and granting them both fields in trust status would secure them for the future. I'd like to go into a little bit of history now on the Downs site, which I know quite well, and that it started in 1901 when there was a girls' school was created, and that went until 1964. In 1964, one of the Pitt, the headmistress, she was inclined to sell the land to Seaford District Council, which she did at a very good price for the council, that is. And so the council bought all this land and the building, the school building and the land. And then they relocated from the Crouch site, their head office in the Crouch, to the Downs, and lived there happily for about 10 years. But in 1974, we would all know that there was a government reorganisation, and Lewes District Council replaced the Seaford Urban District Council. So then it all belonged, the building and the land belonged to Lewes District Council, which it still does today. In 2006, Wave Leisure opened the Downs Leisure Centre there. Wave Leisure, they leased the building, just the building, from Lewes District Council, I believe. In 2018, a healthcare hub was proposed by Lewes District Council. It included a convenience store and building on much of the grass, and included the Sutton Downs Barn, which is a separate building and being used as a community asset now. Anyway, that didn't happen, but it does tend to show the vulnerability of this site, because nothing's really has changed, and particularly for the vulnerability of Lewes District Council or any unitary authority that's going to come along later and not care even less for them. So Lewes District Council owns all the land and the buildings, and the buildings leased back to Wave Leisure. There is some social housing in that building, and then there's also the Sutton Barn Community CIC, which rents and leases their building from Lewes District Council, I believe.
You have 30 seconds.
Oh dear. Friends of Sutton Downs have created to improve the site, and we've had a grant from OVCA. We've worked with local people, and we've grown orchards, trees, whatever. I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to have time. So my main concern is the protection of the grounds, including Sutton Barn and also the recreation ground at Walmer Road. And if it was controlled by a unitary authority, it would become very vulnerable for future developments. That must be my time. I expect so. I'm going to stop.
You're dead on time.
Thank you
very much for your
Thank you.
contribution, sir. Thank you. We will take that into our consideration in due course. Thank you. Do you want to comment?
No, not really, other than what you said, and it's noted what you said.
Yeah, it's very
feed
early
into the
days.
conversations that we're having.
Okay. The lady behind the gentleman who's just spoken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, swapping glasses. Okay, so good evening everyone. Good evening Madam Mayor, Sylvia Dunn. And I'm also wanting to discuss agenda item 19. The idea of designating town council owned recreational green spaces as fields in trust, FIT, was first reported to the Community Services on the 4th of February 2021. This was to allocate and approve FIT for the Salts, the Crouch and the Martello fields. This was very historical in relation to the War Memorial being registered with FIT around 2016. At some point, please could there be an update on whether that went ahead, the Salts, the Crouch and Martello fields. It was also to consider at the time to contact Lewes District Council and request the same FIT protection for the Downs and Walmer Road, but this was rejected by LDC. The recommendation 3 tonight, to approve the working group to oversee the process of identifying potential District Council assets that the Town Council may be interested in acquiring under a local control transfer, and referring these to full council for consideration. I'd like to bring your attention to your report 2.5. For parks and green spaces, LDC will consider assigning them as fields in trust. The Cabinet report on the 5th of June 25, 2.3 states, it may be appropriate to transfer key assets to established town and parish councils that share the council's ambition to protect assets at local level. Please will council consider that for STC to assign a FIT to key assets, STC must first own that asset. So please consider local control transfer. But I do understand that each asset will have to be cost effective and beneficial to the local community. Could councillors also note that Seaford is well under the accepted level of open green spaces which supports health and well-being. This evidence was found during extensive research for the neighbourhood plan. The Environment and Countryside Focus Group working paper, April 2017, that report is on Council's website, which I was heavily involved in, and I was a member of the committee, states the findings of the under accepted level. The report is page 21 and 22. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you very much for your meticulous detail. The lady straight in front of me.
Hello,
Thank you.
Chair. My name's Joanne Rigby, and again it's about item 19 on the agenda. I'm Chair of Friends of Walmer Road Recreational Ground. We want to ask Seaford Town Council Working Group to add to the list of considerations for transfer of assets from Lewes District Council, the recreation ground of Walmer Road and the Downs. There is a risk with the reorganisation of local government that Seaford will be in danger of being even more sidelined, passed over and asset stripped than in the past. These are very important places for communities to come together. These spaces are well used by the whole community and have friends groups who are taking care of them for the benefit of the town and future generations. It is important decisions regarding their future use and enhancement that can be taken at the local level in Seaford with people who know and understand the community and its needs. As Chair of Friends of Walmer Road Rec, I am asking the Town Council to seek to take back the recreation grounds of Walmer Road Rec and the Downs Leisure Centre to protect them both, these sites, by a Fields in Trust deed of dedication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We understand the passion with which we want to defend our green spaces and the places where our young children can take exercise, and we recognise the importance of that to the community. So thank you for your contribution. It is noted and we understand your concerns. So thank you for your contribution tonight. Right, is anyone else wanting to make any contribution, or shall we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to leave now? Would that be convenient so that the council officers can?
That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Would that be all right?
Yeah, that would be very much.
Sorry. We don't want to get rid of you, but we don't want to feel you're trapped either. Duly noted. Thank you for your contribution. We'll now continue the meeting. Item 4, petitions. In accordance with the Town Council petitions policy, this is a standard agenda item to facilitate any public petitions being presented. Please note this did not prompt a discussion on the petition at this meeting. So, has any remaining member of the public got a petition? None has been received by officers but we assume there is no members of the public to do so. Right, moving on to item 5, minutes. Now, for the point of view of brevity, I thought what I would do is I would take items 5.1 as a bunch and then move to 5.2, etc. Does anyone have any members, councillors have any objection to that? So item full council 5.1, the minutes, including the draft minutes of the 27th of March 2025, 10th of April 2025 and the 7th of May 2025. I will propose that as the Mayor and Chair of the full Council. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Markwell, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? And we confirm if those have been accepted for 5.1. Now, remind me who Councillor Sturton, you were the Chair of the Group and View for item 5.2.
I propose.
Right. Do we have a seconder for the Golf and View minutes 5.2? Councillor Buchanan, thank you. All those in favour? Okay. All those against? Any abstentions? Those minutes are confirmed. Thank you. Moving on to personnel. So the current chair of personnel is Councillor Markwell. Are you happy to propose?
Well, I wasn't there.
Yes, the previous chair is not present.
The deputy
Would
chair.
anybody like to be the proposer? Councillor Matthews. Anyone like to second? Councillor?
I would like to raise a point of order. May I ask why this first report is from 15 months ago? Draft minutes, why wasn't it brought to full council? This seems to be quite out of order, really.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah.
Really, it's just an administrative oversight, so we've realised when going back through the minutes that these hadn't been brought to Council for approval. So that, we're doing that as soon as we've realised, and thankfully these minutes are within this administration's time, so there will be some councillors in the room that were at that meeting. But yeah, you're quite right, it's very out of the ordinary to wait 15 months, but it was just error on our part there.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. So do we have a seconder for Councillor Walraven? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? We confirm that those minutes, albeit related, have been passed. Thank you. And finally, planning and highways from March to June 2025, because we know what a busy and frequent committee this is. Councillor Walraven, are you prepared to propose?
Yes, I'm
Thank you.
to propose.
Thank you. A seconder, thank you, Councillor Borman. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? Fine, thank you. We're confirmed that has been passed. Right, moving on to item 6, my update report. So this is my first update, and it has felt like a very long 7 weeks. It is extraordinary how my diary is filled up. I would just comment on one thing, that there was one item on the 16th of June I didn't attend in Hastings, because we were raising the flag for Sussex Day, and we had various other things happen. So I stayed in Seaford and maintained my priorities. But everything else is there, and a further description of some of the more memorable events are actually on the Facebook blog, particularly the one where I represented Seaford and ultimately Sussex in a commemorative service for West Indian servicemen which was held up in the City of London and was quite an extraordinary event that I wasn't expecting. But I and the Bishop of Lewes were warmly greeted with great gratitude, and we're hoping that it becomes an annual event. So it was something that made me very proud to actually be wearing the chain. There was quite significance to it. Any questions about that? Right, so...
I would add, if anyone is interested in learning further about the role of the West Indies Regiment and the conditions of West Indian troops in England, I commend to them C.L.R. James's The Life of Captain Cipriani.
Right, duly noted. Okay. So I'm happy to act as a proposer for the Mayor's update. Can I have a second or two? Councillor Markwell, thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Confirm that my blog has been passed. Thank you. Right, we now move on to rather meatier situations. This is the Town Clerk's update report. Sorry?
Okay, it's out of sequence on the agenda, but it's fine.
Sorry?
It's all right. I can do it.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I think we're supposed to refer to them.
Oh, the walk. Sorry.
Working group.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'll follow the agenda. Yeah, sorry. So this is the Town Council working groups. This is to accommodate reports from the Town Council working groups. We have no updates from the working groups within the agenda. Is that correct, Clark?
We haven't.
No. Okay. So moving to agenda item 8, outside body representative reports. Are any councillors looking to provide a verbal update for their outside bodies? Anybody been to any interesting meetings? Anything there is material update? Councillor Markwell?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I guess just to say that our relationship with the Chamber of Commerce in Seaford is really rolling and very, very impressive and positive. I've been on that group now for a couple of years and I chose to go back onto it for this third term. I have to say the last breakfast meeting we had no less than 44 representatives of organisations associated with Seaford. It's quite phenomenal actually how they are moving forward in their collaboration with both market traders and town traders. And that also has a backdrop in supporting our Christmas Magic events, which is also extremely positive, and I want to thank Sharon and her team for making that happen. And just to say, if you know of any local private enterprises and they ask you about it, really encourage them to join and to support it, because it's an incredibly and invaluable networking event, and it's really important. I think it's certainly helping us in Seaford Town Council to understand what happens in Seaford.
Thank you very much. Any further, Councillor
Hi.
Duval?
Do you want to stand up?
It's entirely up to you.
So I was asked if I wanted to represent Bishopstone, Friends of Bishopstone Station, as an outside body of rep, and I put my name forward, and so did Councillor Walraven. And I was expecting to see that on the agenda for voting on today, but it's not there.
Good.
Sorry, through you, Chair, we'll have to take that away and double check it, and we'll put it on the next council agenda. So sorry if it was meant to be there and it isn't, but we'll look into it.
Can I just come back on that?
Councillor Gorman?
It was delegated to the town clerk to agree that, so it didn't have to come to full council. So because you put your name forward, you are automatically on there. If no, because that's what's come out, if you're on that outside rep. It's delegated authority.
I'll look into that tomorrow morning and confirm by everyone.
Councillor Marco?
Yeah, just to say I concur. I think we did have this discussion because we were concerned that there were quite a lot of people not at the AGM, and we were concerned about outside body reps, and there were vacancies, and that's what we did. So
it would make sense, wouldn't it, really,
Makes a lot of
to
sense.
get people
Otherwise-
assigned, because otherwise time is passing.
6 months before
Yeah.
they'll be participating.
Yeah, okay.
I'll confirm to all councillors tomorrow the arrangements.
Thanks for raising that, Councillor Dubar. Anything further on outside body reports? Right, moving to item 9, District and County Council update report. To give an opportunity for an update from councillors at district or county level on business and activities that affect Seaford and the local area. So, are there any district or county councillors willing or able to give a verbal update on any relevant business? I mean, I know that we are talking about devolution, etc., so some of the big items are actually on the agenda, but is there anything else that anyone would like to say? Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would like to say it is very disappointing. We have 10 district councillors for Seaford, 3 county councillors, quite a few of our town councillors also on either district or county, and most of full council meetings we have no updates from them. It is very disappointing that they can't give updates.
Okay, no further input? Yes, but we have noted that, thank you. Right, now we're at agenda item 10. We really have got to the Town Clerk's update report.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair. So obviously the Town Clerk's update report, slightly different format this time round from how it was presented previously, with freedom of information and complaints removed and forming a separate report from the Community Engagement Officer, Manager. But in terms of my Town Clerk report, I've tried to give an update on a number of the key Town Council pieces of work and priorities, and I would invite any questions. But before I do that, I'd just like to point councillors to the second recommendation. So those of you on GOSCA committee will have expected for us to be recommending the Chington Brook scheme, this full council. However, subsequent to the GOSCA committee, but before this meeting, it's been confirmed that they need to reroute that path, and so we felt it was the right thing to do to defer bringing that to full council until we understand what their proposed rerouting of that is. So I'd welcome any questions.
Councillor Buchanan and then Councillor Dubar.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a quick thought on that about the rerouting of the Chington Brooks. Will we be getting a map of that in the near future?
Through the Chair, the National Trust haven't yet come back to us to propose what their reroute is going to look like. They walked the route on the day after the GOSCA committee and discovered what they've described as a World War I camp on the proposed route. So they've suggested that they're going to work out a better route. Obviously they have to confirm that with the tenant farmer and then come back to us with a proposal. What officers have said is if it materially changes the recommendation, we'll take it back to the committee. If it doesn't materially change the proposal, then we'll bring it to the next full council meeting for approval. So I would hope that as part of that they're going to provide us with a map of where the rerouted section is.
Okay, you imagine that.
Councillor Dubar and then Councillor Borman.
Good questions, please, if I may. Question 1 is at 1.19. You're going to move the compostable toilets to Southfield Down. One of the reasons for those toilets closing on the seafront is because the camper vans were emptying the chemical waste into them and it made them non-compostable. What's to stop them doing that again up at Seaford Down?
Through the Chair, nothing is going to actually stop that, but we're hopeful that that's going to be less of a problem there. That's all I can really answer that with.
Can I just add that as I used to be the chair of the Community Services, we went into this in considerable detail with a regulation officer of Lewes District Council. And the problem is that although a lot of this feels like antisocial behaviour, we explore all these issues and compostable toilets are really not acknowledged as being a particular issue. So the emptying of caravan waste into these, there are no regulations, there are no national regulations. So although we felt very strongly about it, there was nothing that we could do in terms of legislation because it simply doesn't exist.
One of the things you could do is put some picture signage up, just in case you've got camper van users that are not English speakers. That's just one suggestion I have.
We'll take suggestions into account.
So item 4.1, number 3. I suggested previously that we have the sponsorship opportunities on the golf buggies and signage outside the view. That hasn't been taken up, and I've suggested it 2 years running, and I'd like to suggest it again, please. Item number 6 on that table, seafront signage. Whilst it's not, my item is not about bringing visitors to the town, it's about the 2 no dogs allowed signs that popped up again. When I investigated this last year, it was without Seaford Town Council's permission, and it was instigated by Lewes District Council. And I asked at the time if the officer concerned could investigate why Lewes had put incorrect signs up, because dogs are allowed on the beach, they're just dogs allowed on leads. So yet again, it's misleading, it's incorrect, and it's pointless. So it's just a complete waste of money. So can you get the signage either removed or changed, please?
My understanding is that this is put up by Lewes District Council and they've got
Well, it is, but they need to be advised that it's incorrect. It goes against the bylaws of the beach. Dogs are allowed on leads.
It does say on the bylaw that, sorry, through the chair, that they are banned from the central section of Seaford Beach, which is where they place those 2 flags.
They are not banned. They're allowed on leads. So if you read it again, they're allowed on leads. They're not banned at all.
Can I take this discussion offline? I think it does need to be clarified, maybe with the help of Lewes District Council as well, because they are the people who put these signs up, and often we don't find out until they're actually up. So it's quite important to get the facts straight first before we move forward. But thanks for bringing it to our attention again. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Matthews. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Borman has waited patiently first, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. 1.3, I'm sure we would like minuted that as a full council and previous councillors, that it is with great sadness. This is Georgia's last meeting, and we would like to thank her for her years of service for the council.
Could I just add, and because I saw this in the town clerk's report as well, that while we're very sorry to see Georgia go, I'm not sure sadness is quite the appropriate emotion, because Georgia is going on to something that, from her point of view, is going to be an exciting next stage in her career, and we are absolutely delighted for her, whilst at the same time regretful that we won't have her efficient administration to benefit from on Seaford Town Council.
Thank you very much. You'll just have me as an annoying resident.
Be afraid, be very afraid.
Public participation.
Okay, right. Councillor Matthews, and I think that we'll draw it to our...
yeah, section 1.18. So the contract with cleaners in the 53 times a day, do you have any dates and when did that start? When did it
Sorry, for which cleaners?
Martello toilets cleaners.
Martello toilets cleaners.
For a tender?
No, it's been increased for 3 times a day.
Oh, okay.
And I was just wondering when you've got any dates, so when does it start and when does it finish?
Yeah, it should be started from now, and it will be looking to finish towards the end of September. dependent on how we're finding the facilities as we're getting to that part of the year.
Okay. Right, I'm going to, Councillor Markwell.
Thank you, Chair. Just going on to 4.1.2, the delivery of the 80th anniversary D-Day and refreshed Armed Forces Day celebrations. So was just to just really clarify what the refreshed Armed Forces Day celebrations are for this year, and to hope that even though we know that they are going to be scaled back because there are much bigger celebrations in other areas quite immediate to Seaford, it would be useful to just note what those are going to be and how they're going to be advertised, etc.
Do you want to?
Yeah, so through the chair, it was agreed at a previous full council meeting, at the view, I can't remember the date of that meeting, but I can look back, that given the size of the Eastbourne Armed Forces Day celebration, that in Seaford we would offer a wreath laying and the flag to be raised on Armed Forces Day. The Mayor is attending that on Saturday, but the residents are invited to attend the Eastbourne event if they'd like to attend a big Armed Forces Day celebration. That's what we agreed at the full council for this current year.
Thank you.
It was about dignified, respectful memorial, but no celebration of that. That was going to be in the Eastbourne. Okay. Right. Okay. So I will bring this to a close and say we're asked to consider and discuss the updates presented and to move to a vote on the motions below. So firstly, to note the contents of the report, do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Bourne, a seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Nobody against? Any abstentions? I confirm that that is passed. And secondly, to agree to defer the full council in principle approval of the Chington Brook scheme pending on confirmation from the National Trust of the rerouting of the path around the newly discovered World War I camp. So firstly, can I have a proposer for this? Councillor Buchanan, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Matthews, please. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Nobody against. Any abstentions? We confirm that that's accepted. Thank you. Right. Okay. So we're moving on to agenda item 11, which is complaints, freedom of information requests and appeals.
Thank you, Chair. So in the absence of Isabel, this is a new report for this municipal year, which is extracted out of the Town Clerk report, and this focuses on any complaints, freedom of information requests and appeals that are ongoing, which are looked after by the Community Engagement and Democratic Services Manager. Welcome any questions on Isabel's behalf.
Councillor Taylor.
I was just intrigued what the stopping up order is. Mainly, it's the last one on the list, under item 3.1.
Through the Chair, it's a freedom of information request about the stopping up order that was applied for Cliff Gardens.
Oh, stopping up of that.
Of the road.
Of the road.
Okay. That's weird.
It's a legal terminology called stopping up order, but yeah, and it's a FOI about that issue.
Okay, any further questions before I move? So we are asked to consider the updates presented in the report and move to a vote on the motions below, and we are asked to note the contents of the report. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Moorhaven, a seconder, Councillor Meek. All those in favour? Looks unanimous. All those against? Nobody? Any abstentions? confirm that that is accepted. Thank you. So, we're now moving to agenda item 12, which is the fixed asset register review. So we are advised to consider the updates presented in the report and move to a vote on the motions below. Town Clerk, over to you.
Indeed. So before I start, I should pass on apologies from Lucy as the RFO. She's having to attend a personal matter out of county and is obviously unable to attend the meeting tonight, which is far from ideal. So she's committed that any questions which only she could answer, she will endeavour to respond to tomorrow to councillors via email. But in terms of this report, this is the first of a number of financial reports that are in front of councillors tonight, and this is a annual process where we are required for the fixed asset register to be presented for adoption. I'll invite any questions.
Councillor Borman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to know about, obviously, the property cost is based on the insurance value as of 2012. Actually, if you had to rebuild some of these, with so many years on from that actually these costs could be wrong. So I'm just wondering when we're going to actually have a more updated base value of where we have our base.
I don't think there's a specific kind of point in time or date in time that will take place, but we can certainly take it away. And with NAPS as Assets and Contracts Manager, you're taking over fixed asset register and insurance. So I think, speaking on your behalf then,
it's on my list.
Yeah.
Can everybody still hear? I'm aware that there's quite a lot of background noise. You're still okay? All right. Okay. Thank you. Can I put in a comment as well from the police clerk that I've noticed that on both of these registers, item 116 is Seaford Head Estate, and that is an enormous amount of detail. It doesn't include the tracks, it doesn't include the bridleway, it doesn't include Hope Gap steps. So it means that we are owning a huge asset with very little detail. The only thing that on the Seaford Head Estate that it details is actually South Hill Barn itself. And that strikes me as, when we go into such detail with, you know, seats and various things in other parts of Seaford, to have the whole of the estate just on one line seems a strange juxtaposition of lack of detail when there are so many things that we may have to repair, like the steps and the tracks. And is that something that is possible to change, or is it a regulatory way of recording matters?
I would have to hazard a guess, that the answer is because it all sits under one land registry title. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I also think maybe linking back to the piece of work we've just discussed, it may be that when that's getting those insurance values, that prompts a bigger breakdown within the estate. Like you say, maybe Hope Gap Steps does need to be identified. South Hill Barn, you know, there may be some things that can be done. I don't think there's anything preventing it, but it's probably originally to do with the fact that this land was all transferred over to us and it just appeared as one title deed rather than a breakdown as such.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any further questions, Councillor Warren?
It's just on 100A, defibrillator at Bishopstone. We've got it down as Bishopstone Road, and it should be St Andrew's Drive, I think.
Thank you very much. That has recently been added, so I know it's important. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Okay. So we are asked to consider the updates and move to a vote, and we are being asked to adopt the fixed asset register as of the 31st of March 2025 as presented in report 4125. Can I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Warman, thank you. A seconder. Councillor Matthews. All those in favour? Unanimous. Any against? Anybody? Any abstentions? No. I confirm that that is passed. Thank you. Right. So, am I asked? Have I got to sign something? So, moving on to item 13. This is the internal audit report year ended 31st of March 2025 and the appointment of internal auditor for 2025-2026. And this is to receive the final audit report and formalise the appointment of parish and town audit services for the 2025-2026 financial year. So this is a change of internal auditor. Clark.
Thank you. Obviously, in the absence of the RFO, councillors will be aware we were asked previously to change internal auditors, and this paper talks about the fact that that's been done from this financial year onwards with the appointment of parish and town audit services, and I'd invite any questions.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Markle.
I just want to thank the town clerk and officers for making this change. I think it followed a very, very deep discussion last year about changing this. So I'm glad that the investigation proved that you found hopefully a suitable firm to support us in the future. Thank you very much.
Right. If there are no more questions or comments, we are being asked to consider the updates presented within the report and to move to a vote on the motions. So firstly, we are asked to vote to receive and note the annual internal auditor report Appendix A. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Markwell, and a seconder, please. Councillor Lord, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? No? We're having a very unanimous night. This is good, thank you. Any abstentions? No. Confirm that that is passed. Thank you. Right, okay. Now, item 2 is to note the final report of the internal auditor, which is Appendix B. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Warraven, a seconder. Councillor Lord, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Any against? No. Any abstentions? No. So we confirm that that's been accepted as well. Thank you. And finally, to approve that the RFO sign the engagement letter appointing parish and town audit services as the town council's internal auditor for the 2025-2026 financial year. So can I have a proposer for that, please? Thank you. Councillor Dubar, a seconder, please. Councillor Taylor. Those in favour? That looks pretty unanimous. Any against? No. Any abstentions? No. So we confirm that that's been passed. Thank you. Right. After the signing, I think. Right. Which page am I looking at now?
You are looking at page 50.
Yeah. Okay, so we're moving to item 14. This is the annual governance statement 2024 to 2025. And the purpose of the report is to enable full council to discuss and approve the annual governance statement for 2024-25, and we're advised to consider the updates presented within the report and to move to a vote on those motions. Town Clerk.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, every year we need to complete an annual governance assurance statement, which is a two-part process. This paper covers the first part of the process, the next paper covers the second part of the process, and if this motion is approved, then myself and the Mayor as Chair have to sign a statement which is sent off to the external auditor as part of that process. I invite any questions.
Questions, comments from anyone? Okay. If everybody is happy, then I will request a proposer for this motion, please. Councillor Borman, thank you. The seconder, Councillor Taylor. Right. So this is, to agree that to the best of its knowledge and belief, it is complied with all assertions in the annual government statement for the year ended the 31st of March. Okay, so we have a...
Take both together.
I think I prefer to take them separately if you don't mind. So a proposer, Councillor Borman, a seconder, Councillor Taylor, all those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? This is passed. And the second part of this recommendation to approve the annual governance statement for the year ending the 31st of March 2025 would authorise Chair and Town Clerk to sign Section 1 of the annual governance statement and accountability return on behalf of the Town Council. Can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Borman. Seconder, Councillor Markwell. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? We confirm that that's been passed unanimously. We'll now have a short break while this is signed. So if anyone would like to take a break now, please do so.
I like that.
Is it German?
And it wasn't even expensive. I also found it, I could never expect it particularly much but I can't believe my
Right, okay. Moving swiftly on to agenda item 15, which is the annual governance and accountability return, accounting statements, section 2 and final accounts 2024 and 2025. So the purpose of the report is to present the final accounts and annual governance and accountability return, otherwise known as the AGAR, section 2, for the year ended 31st of March for approval and adoption. So we're recommended to consider the information and update presented within the report to facilitate the year-end process for the 2024-25 financial year, and then to move to a vote on the motions below. Clerk, comments?
Thank you. This is the second part of the annual AGAR return, and I think it's detailed in the report, so I'd invite any questions.
Councillors, do you have any questions? Councillor Markwell and then Councillor Buchanan.
Okay, I'd like to take, thank you Chair, I'd like to take you to the appendix H.
Which page?
Oh, sorry, page 89.
Thank you.
At the bottom, 355, civic expenses. something I was very familiar with last year, or lack of them. And what I'd like to ask is what from civic underspends this contingency for unknown liability, e.g. for mayor's shame or freedom of the town, means if there was over £7,500 in the contingency budget held last year that was unable to be tapped into when asked.
Who would like to take that?
And hazard a guess through you, Chair. So I think what that comment is referring to is if, for example, we had a freedom of the town, if someone was gifted that honorary position and we then had to do a ceremony, it's cost towards that, because obviously it would be unbudgeted because it wouldn't be known that far in advance. With regards to the mayor's chain, it's if we need further extensions to the chain, for example, if there was damage, or if at some point we need to look at getting a new chain, because I believe the chain is quite full. So really it is just, as it says, it's contingency funds for those reasons.
Okay, thanks very much. That's clarification enough.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Matthews, please.
It's likely for Lucy, I don't know, but the £20,000 underspend for the playground budget seems like a missed opportunity to invest in some equipment, either repairs or introduce new equipment. Is there any more explanation about why we didn't want to spend that money?
Do they have any? Sharon? Yes, please.
We are currently spending that money on updating some of the pieces that have been vandalised there, but we were also investigating how we could repair the surfacing in the playground, because it's quite
Is this the salt?
The salt playground. It's quite poor in some of the areas, and there's some trip hazards, and there's some pooling of water in some other areas. So that has now just in the last week taken place, and mainly the toddler area in the playground has had some resurfacing works in a couple of other item areas, which we were hoping that for spending on that.
Okay, just that we can spend all our playground money this financial year.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. More by way of clarification, I suppose, but on page 90, item 361, which is related to silver receipts, there seems to be £250,000-ish used to fund the expenditure in the future. And so the first question is, how can we access that, or can it be used for? And the second part of that is there was some seal money from Newlands. Does that actually appear in here, or is that a separate issue? Because I understood that money for Newlands is meant to be spent on sports grounds or things like that. So really there's two parts to the question. Number one is the number here, 250,000, which is for future use, earmarked, reserve is earmarked for not sure what. And then does that 361 item AC code also include the Newlands money? Or is that not accounted for here?
Through the chair, the Newlands money is section 106 money, not SIL, which is a different arrangement and is held by Lewes District Council. It can only be used for building a new pitch for football purposes, and is going through a section 106 process whereby bids need to be made to Lewes District Council, who then assess whether or not that fits within the criteria. So section 106 and SIL are quite different schemes. So that's the answer to the question about the Newlands money. The answer to the question about the £267,000 remaining is that currently remains within our earmarked reserves for spending on specific projects that relate to the infrastructure. There's a list of projects that SIL money can be spent on, and it has to comply with one of those projects.
Okay, sorry if I may just come back quickly then. On that issue of the Newlands SIL, is Is there anything in train at the moment that's going to be able to get that money spent in Seaford?
Okay.
I think there's a time frame on that whole deal.
Sure. So it's reserved for Seaford for the first 5 years. After that, it then becomes available to a wider group of towns. And then after a period of time, it becomes more flexible in what it can be used for. And we're going through that process at the moment. When we spoke with the Lewis District Council, their advice was anyone who's interested in making a bid for that money should speak to an officer at the Lewis District Council who will assess in principle the proposal that's been put forward and establish whether or not that meets the criteria of the Section 106, and if so, then they'll work with them to pull forward a proper application for that Section 106. I have informed the various sports clubs in Seaford of the process and the steps they need to take if they're interested. I'm aware of a number of them that have done that and have contacted that officer at Lewis District Council. And just to clarify again, Section 106 is a different scheme from SIL, and so it can't be referred to as SIL money, and it doesn't sit with us, whereas SIL money does sit with us because it's granted to us by the District Council and the National Park in some instances as a percentage of the SIL money that they receive.
I think there's a confusion from it.
But I hope that's answered your question. It's really quite complicated and we can't go into it in that sort of detail. Any further questions, queries about these figures? Okay. So I shall move to the recommendations. Firstly, we're asked to consider and approve Section 2 of the Annual Governance and Accountability Return Accounting Statements 2024-2025. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Markwell, seconder. Councillor Matthews. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Nobody. Any abstentions? No. I can confirm that that is passed. So, secondly, to authorise the Mayor as Chair of the Town Council to sign Section 2 of the Annual Governance and Accountability Return 2024-25 on behalf of the Town Council. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Matthews, seconder. Councillor Meek. Those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? No. I confirm that that is passed. And lastly, to note the earmarked reserve movements and capital receipts and expenditure in the year. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Borman, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Lord. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? I therefore confirm it is passed unanimously. Thank you. Right, so that is bundle number 1 that we've completed. Thank you for your help and speedy cooperation, which is quite a significant bundle. So we're now at the beginning of the second bundle. It is page 94 and item 16. Okay, so this is changing the subject from finances to annual leases. So this is the annual lease review update 2025-2026 municipal year, and this is to provide full council with assurance regarding the overview of leases and to detail those currently under review during the 2025-2026 municipal year. So I shall ask Natalie to check this item, please. Thank you.
It's very short and sweet because it's work in progress. Next year, what I'd like to be showing on the report is scheduled break clauses if applicable, scheduled rent reviews, if they fall in the municipal year, the time span we have to address those kind of things, just so we've got that kind of scheduled in. And I'd like to include that on the sheet next year, but obviously I'm still going through all of the leases and all those particular clauses. I think it's self-explanatory, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or queries from councillors? Councillor Mead.
Just a question really, designation, how was it called? I mean, you called it South Hill Farm. I've never known, there isn't a South Hill Farm, it's Chington Farm, tenancy to, isn't it? It's Chington Farm, it's South Hill Estate. Have we always known it as South Hill Farm? I don't think it's Chington Farm, surely.
Do we have an answer?
I certainly inherited the paperwork of South Hill Farm.
But we have a Masters Farm, Chington Farm,
So,
which is the National Trust Farm, as far as I understand. Is that not correct? I wonder if it's just our convenience that we call it South Hill Farm, but I just, is that a kind of, it's an anomaly to me.
thank you for pointing out, it's well worth checking. The previous paperwork that I inherited referred to it as South Hill Farm. But by all means, check.
Okay, we'll note that and we'll ask officers to look into it and maybe send around an email if anything further is discovered. Thank you. Councillor Duval.
If you refer to page 105, the report refers to the lease and the tenant are the executors of
No,
Chington
that's item
Farm.
17.
Oh,
We're on
well,
item 16.
yes, I know, but you're just discussing whether it's called Southfield Barn or Chington Farm, and on here it's called Chington Farm. Page 105.
102, it says Southfield Farm lease.
So the lease says Chington Farm, so council Meek is correct.
It also says Southfield Farm.
Yes, so yes, page 105 mentions Chington Farms.
Because of the address, the house is known as Chington Farm and not the estate.
I think she knows it.
Okay. We think, hang on, just a minute. We think Georgia might have an answer or an explanation to this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that the tenant farmer actually has two different tenancies. So they have one with us for South Hill Farm. They then have another tenancy with the National Trust. So they treat it as kind of one whole farm, but it's actually from two different landlords. And I believe the National Trust part of the farm is Chington Farm, are kind of what we lease to them is South Hill Farm. That's my understanding. And I think in that the document under item 17, I think that's the address. So that's where the house is. The house is on Chington Farm, which is the National Trust land, whereas our land is South Hill Farm.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. It gets stranger, doesn't it?
You're not leaving,
But,
you're not.
yeah. This just undermines the difficulty we're going to have in your absence. But thank you very much for clarifying that. Any further comments or queries about item 16? So we can move on if there aren't. Okay. So we confirm. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to officers for clarifying this, and it is not an easy issue at all. So we're asked to consider the contents of the report, updating councillors on lease work of the municipal year, and to move to a vote. So we are asked to note the content of this update report. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Meek, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Markwell, sorry. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Nobody. Any abstentions? Thank you. I confirm that has been passed. Okay. Right. Moving on to agenda item 17, which is in the same vein. We are, this is South Hill Farm business tenancy, and we're advised to consider the draft farm tenancy lease presented within the report and to move to a vote on the motions below. So I shall ask Natalie to take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously, this you will see the appendix was produced some time ago, and it's taken quite a long time to get this across the line. There were various reasons to do with you knew about cows raising, which is more Sharon's expertise, but there's been a lot of communication, much more your expertise. There's been a lot of toing and froing from the solicitor, the landowners, so it's taken quite some time to get it here. Welcome to answer any questions, but hopefully it's self-explanatory.
Councillor Dubber.
Yeah, can you explain item 4, disposal of land, please?
Yep, excuse me, I was just borrowing Sharon's information, knocked itself out. Yeah, so obviously, as I think we've covered before, under the Local Government Act 1972, Section 127, there's all sorts of requirements for us to be able to dispose of land less than market value. The general disposal consent does allow us to do so if the value's less than 2 million, if it's for the social, economic well-being. So a lot of our community groups, charities, etc. I inherited this piece of work from a land agent and solicitor that a previous officer had instructed to do the work. I challenged with him the how this fitted into the LGA, Local Government Act, because it obviously isn't a charity group, it isn't a not-for-profit. So I wanted to know how we would overcome the restrictions of the disposal of land. We went into a long investigative situation of seeing what took precedent, the Agricultural Holdings Act, the Local Government Act. What he came up with, being a specialist in this area, is he feels very strongly that the market rental that we charge is appropriate. But it's something that wouldn't have been shown up in a valuation because of the complications of where the land is, and the I did write it in there, sorry, about managing the land and the SSIs. So we've decided that the business tenancy could be for 6 years, 364 days, which takes away those complications. And the proposed new tenant was extremely happy with that as well. I personally feel having a shorter term with a break clause means that if there are any significant changes going forwards, because I know there's a lot to be established in the Farm Objectives Plan, which is still an evolving document, which I've mentioned in here, which is being worked on. It gives both the council and the tenant the opportunity to look at the lease again, without having to, there won't be any breaches, but without having to surrender the lease, re-grant it. So that's where that information relates to.
Can I respond to that, please?
Can do that, yeah.
So you're referring to a lease arrangement, but I'm specifically talking about disposal of land here. And it's saying that, we've never voted to dispose of that land. So I don't understand why you're talking about disposal of land in the same sentence as leases.
Well, because sorry, can I interject? Yeah. The disposal of land relates to leases, licences over 7 years, sales. So it's a terminology that is confusing, but disposal does relate to all of those things. So okay. I mean, so it's a confusion that I struggle with as well sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
We're not getting rid of it.
And it is 7 years minus 1 day, so it's the longest time we've had. It's not 7 years, but it's not disposing of it. It's a technical term.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions before we move to a vote? Okay. So, we're being asked to consider the draft farm business tenancy lease presented in the report and to move to a vote on the motions. This is page 98. We're recommended to, can I suggest that we take these two recommendations together? Are we happy with that? So to agree the farm business tenancy subject to written consent of the Lewes District Council, and secondly to note the council officers will agree the finalised farm objectives plan with the tenant and BTF partnership, with this being presented at a future meeting of the Golf, Open Spaces and Climate Action Committee for noting and commenting. So can I have a proposer for this, please? Councillor Meek, a seconder, please. Councillor Buchanan. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? I confirm that's passed unanimously. Thank you. So now we are moving swiftly on to item 18, which is page 150. It's a little bit confusing because there are some old papers that related to the previous subject. But it is page 150, is that correct? Yeah. And it is agenda item 18, where this is the final approval of granting a lease for the base. And we're asked to seek approval of the granting of a new lease for the base as recommended in the Golf, Open Spaces and Climate Action Committee. It has been discussed recently. We're advised to consider the contents of the report, to recommend that the recommendations of the GOSCA Committee of the 5th of June, which are slightly different, and that's why it's been brought to our attention, and to move to a vote on the motions above. So can I ask, would you like to talk to this, Steve?
I can do. I'm going to hand over to Nat if it's all right with the chair, but just to mention, the new arrangement of the new committee structure is where a recommendation has come from a committee to full council. The idea is that the chair of that committee will represent the discussion that was had at the committee and put forward the discussions on why it was recommended to be brought. Unfortunately, Councillor Bristow isn't with us this evening, and so that can't happen for this report. But Natalie, as the officer responsible, can talk to the paper if there's anything else that you would like to add, Natalie.
I have nothing to add, but obviously again, welcome to take comments or questions.
There was, I remember because I was on the committee, that there were queries about should there be a shorter lease than 10 years. It was the length of the lease that we were concerned about, particularly if there was going to be perhaps a SALT development plan. Would the current granting of the lease for 10 years, would that help or hinder that issue? And advice has been taken, and apparently the advice is that a 10-year lease time is the most practical, because it's unlikely that anything that happens in the SALT is going to work against that.
I mean, I think it's detailed in section 3 of the report that you've got in front of you, in terms of it talks about what was discussed at the GOSCA committee and then some actions that officers have taken since that time, and I think that tries to explain the situation.
Right, Councillor Matthews.
Just a reflection really, because when we were at the committee, we also asked for some kind of case studies or some reports on what the base is being used for. So, because I think we haven't had any updates. I think you guys had them, but they didn't come to GOSCA. Subsequently, they have been emailed accounts of kids' experiences of the base, and it was really positive, and it was really providing opportunities for kids that otherwise wouldn't have those, I think, in Seaford. It's cost effective and much more popular than I realised. So, I think it's to be commended what's happening down there. So
Thanks for raising that. It was a very positive recent report. It was good to read that the volunteers are so passionate about this, and they've done so much good in raising money commercially and then using it to inspire and help children under the age of 18 in this town. It was really inspiring to read.
It was inspiring.
Councillor Martha?
Hello, yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to just think about how we as a town council deal with leases when they do come to an end, and whether we inform the community that they come to an end and give an opportunity for other people to apply for that lease, or whether this is just a rollover, because the lease has been held by the same people for 10 years. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what's been done. Clearly there's a very positive report, but where's the democratic opportunity for other people to apply to use this provision within Seaford, given that it will now be held by the same people for 20 years?
Do you want to take that, Clark?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point. we have a number of buildings where, you know, the same tenant continues to occupy, such as the Martello Tower for the Museum and Heritage Society, for example. I think it's an interesting point that officers can take away and consider and come back with a response.
But sorry, Chair, just to say, even if you do come back with a response, we've still got 10 years in front of us, so we can't change it. So we've still committed ourselves to 10 years with the same people. That's all. I'm just wondering how we need to look at these leases and think about how we offer opportunities, because I don't understand why we would have concessions that we offer only for 3 years. I know that's a lease and it's a concession, it's a different contract, but we're not offering the same opportunity to leaseholders. And why would we?
I mean, I think there's a distinction between a sort of charitable, not-for-profit organisation that's doing some sort of good within the community versus a concession, which is a private sector, commercial, profit-driven enterprise. And I think that's probably the distinction. Because if we were to embark down that road, it would mean that, for example, when the Martello Tower leased out, we would have to offer that to other organisations, and similarly with other other organisations. And so I don't know how we would come to decide which ones aren't going to be put up for competition and which ones are. Which is why I said, we can take it away and have a think about it. But I mean, this one is one which is clearly doing something on a sort of not-for-profit basis for the good of the people of the town. They're not seeking to make a profit from it, and I guess that's why it was deemed to be in that sort of category where we would allow them to continue in place.
Thank you.
Have you got anything to add to that?
No, I mean, speaking completely bluntly, when I first came here temporarily, I asked myself the same question. And I thought, well, these leases, we're just going, we just automatically, But I completely back what Steve's just said. As time's progressed, I think it's not just the not-for-profits or the charitables that are really serving, the residents and putting us lovely sort of, educational and learning thing for the children, but there is also quite a significant question of who else would want it, because this particular example is, for all intents and purposes, a very small structure. They pay for everything. They buy the milk, the tea, the coffee, the cleaning, the caretaker duty, all of the internals. It's a situation that doesn't really cost the council very much, and we do have quite a few smaller assets that fall within that criteria. But I do agree with Steve that it is worth looking at, and even if we just definitively give an answer to why, I think it's a really good thing to put on the to-do list. So thank you.
Yeah, can I just come back? I think it's something which we need a policy on, probably, in terms of where we decide that an asset or is a not-for-profit type one, which we're not looking to re-let every time it comes up, and which one is, I guess.
Is this a full repairing lease?
It's all we are responsible for is anything structural, exterior structural. So, but to be fair, they have received funding in the past and actually paid for things themselves, just as a sort of by way of a tenant's improvement. But we don't get involved in any of the day-to-day maintenance, repair, redecorating.
I mean, just, is that, would that, sorry, I know this is process a bit, but would that be the same with things like the Scout Hut or the Martello Tower?
The Martello Tower, it's a fully internal repairing and the improvements they had funding for, so the ramp and the access they are responsible for, the external boundary we are responsible for. But once again, that building costs an awful lot of money to run and maintain, and the museum.
The Martello Tower is a special mention monument, so it's treated a bit differently.
Just to not miss your last point, the Scouts I'll have to look at because I haven't had any input on the Scouts yet.
Okay,
So,
I think we're straying from the point here. Okay. Are there any further factual questions about this before I move to a vote? Councillor Meek.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think this is probably perfectly all right, but and you know the Secretary and Treasurer, I know Pat White, I'm sure that's fine, but 10-year lease, you don't know what happens within 5 years, and maybe the membership and the people running it change, and then maybe it falls into a situation where it's not run so responsibly. I think that's something we just need to caveat. Just to reference something that's happened near my ward in Seaford, North East Seaford, where some people got together and created a community garden, which has been great. But unfortunately, the two lead members have fallen out. They got a lease from Lewis District Council. Now, one of them has given the lease back. So now the people can't use the community garden because there's an impasse there. So what's Lewis District Council going to do about it? You know, they've now got a kind of community garden that can't be used because there's no one taking responsibility for it, and that's a voluntary organisation. Which is why I did ask at the GOSCA for if we could have a break clause or something for 5 years, so that you can just kind of revisit it and see where you are with it. It gives you, I don't know if that, Natalie, whether that helps, whether that's a useful thing to put in or whether it's a hindrance. I just asked that as, if you don't want to have a less tenancy, a shorter tenancy, you want to keep it at 10 years because of legal costs and all that kind of thing, which is perfectly logical, but does a break clause at say 5 years help to just review and even as Councillor Mark will say, just say it is a fit for purpose organisation still and we're happy to kind of continue with it. I just put that out there.
Could I also ask a question as well about if the individuals themselves, the named individuals, if they decide they no longer want to or can participate, how easy is it to change the name on a lease if one lessee no longer wants to continue?
Because we have another, we actually have going through at the moment with the same thing with Seaford Community Gardens, in the fact that that was taken out in the names of the Treasurer and the Chair, etc. And this is a similar principle. So basically, in short, you cannot legally take on an asset if you're not incorporated, if you're not a legal entity, whether you're a charity, community, interest company, whatever. So in order to change the names, a formal deed of variation has to be carried out, and there are legal costs attached to that. The previous example I just gave, I did have conversations with the trustees of that particular organisation, whether they might consider becoming a legal entity so that if they change volunteers again in the future, they wouldn't have to go through this every time, but that's the answer.
Okay. Last question.
Can you tell me briefly what the break clauses and review terms are, please, in that lease?
There's no break clause in that lease. Following the discussion at GOSCA, we had a lengthy discussion in-house between officers, and I think because all of the other remaining leases at the Salts are so long, the concerns about if we were to redevelop the Salts, we would never get them to align, and the others supersede that somewhere. They're very lengthy. So there is no break clause in it, and there is no review in it because it's a peppercorn rent, because it's a not-for-profit and it's providing a, you know, it's contributing to the social economic well-being of the community. So that's how, so in answer to your question, none and none.
So it's my concern that should the constitution change, the use becomes something else.
They're very tied with the use. Their permitted use is for the current purposes that they use the office. If for the building, if they weren't using it for permitted use, we could actually give them a forfeiture and break the lease because they're breaching the terms of their lease agreement. So, I mean, if they're doing something wrong or they're not following the lease, we can, as the landlord, break it.
I thought you said there were no break clauses.
Breach.
Councillor Dubber.
I said if it was a breach.
Councillor Mark, have you got something extra to add? You've already spoken.
No, I
I'm
just
afraid.
wanted to thank our officer Natalie, who's in a new position, to take on all this work, and appreciate that it's been quite a roller coaster in doing that and picking up all these different things.
Yeah.
I just want to hope that in the minutes we do say that we are going to look at developing a policy for managing leases. So, because in a new administration in 2 years' time, there could be another full council who don't understand any of this, and they will need a policy to underpin that knowledge. It can't just come from officers' knowledge and experience. It has to be written down somewhere.
Through the chair, it won't be in the resolutions, but we will capture it in our non-resolution action.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to draw this to a close, and I'm going to suggest that we take the recommendations 1, 2 and 3 all together, if everybody's happy with that, really. Okay, so we're being asked to note the contents of the report, to approve the granting of a new lease to the members of the base committee, and to agree to delegate power to the town clerk to agree any minor changes whilst the lease is prepared and signed, under the provisos that any major changes that represent material changes to the terms would be brought back to full council for consideration. So can I have a proposal for this, please? Councillor Matthews. Sorry, it's getting long night. Councillor Meeker, seconder, yeah? Okay, those in favour, please. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Confirm that that is agreed. Thank you. Right, so that is the end of the second bundle. Yeah? Now, how's everybody doing? Does anyone else want a short break before we go into the second bundle? Third bundle, sorry. Okay, I think we'll crack on unless anyone wants it. Okay, so this is now item 19, it's page 215. Yeah?
It is. Thank you,
So,
Chair.
this is the devolution priority programme, and this is to update councillors on the developments within the devolution agenda and how it relates to Lewes District Council assets. Clark.
Indeed. So, as councillors will know, the devolution agenda is continuing apace within the Sussex. That's the whole of Sussex. Lewes District Council have come forward with a process for interested town and parish councils to approach them in relation to assets that we may be interested in taking off them under local control transfers. And the paper sets out the proposals. And I'll be invite any questions.
Councillor Markwell.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to draw attention to the next step, working group formation. 4.3, we've got once an initial list is identified, officers will seek to make initial inquiries. And once with district council, but then working group will be considered. I'm just wondering how the working group is going to be formed, when councillors are going to be invited to form that group, because this is one of now 3 working parties, both from Goscar, and there's another one in the next agenda item coming up. So we as councillors need to really know when we're expected to respond to participating in working groups, especially as they are time laden. Both of them, in fact, this one and the next agenda item is through the summer, and we need that work to be carried out. And then the second point is it would be really, really helpful to have a map and a list of the assets that you will be discussing. Whether that comes out of the first meeting of the working group, I don't know, but I think in some respects it could come before councillors decide whether they want to attend that working group.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Just to talk to your second point, there is an assets list that's been provided. However, there's at least 8 items on it that are wrong. So we've asked for that to be corrected, and we've been advised it will be corrected. But at the moment, the list isn't correct. There is no list that's been produced. There's no map that's been produced. And so it's not really something which I don't think we can do it, because we don't understand exactly where their land is. But there is no map on offer from the district council that I'm aware of for that purpose.
That's going to be quite difficult then, town clerk, to make any decisions on the working group without a map and a list.
Well, we've got, as I say, we've got a list, but it's incorrect. So we can edit the list to what we know is, take out the ones that we know are wrong. But a map is, we don't know where they own pieces of land and where the border is, and in every case that we do have some maps of the land we know of that they own, but it's not comprehensive.
Just to add, so when we do have the conclusive list, we will be able to go onto the land registry and take screenshots. I say we, talking to Matt over there, and we can do screenshots and do our best to kind of get as accurate a map as we can. And if the working group's meeting in this room, they can use the screen so we can zoom in, use Google Maps. So we'll find ways to get it visually in front of you as well.
That's not going to form a map in the sense of the town.
No.
And where each item is on that map, though. It will just be a plot of that piece of land from above, if that makes sense.
For the moment.
But we do know there is a great deal of justifiable public interest in this. Does anyone else have any queries or comments? Councillor Taylor.
I'm struck by the fact that we've had this whole discussion about leases and we haven't one at any point sort of linked that with the asset issue and what is listed as assets, and because clearly there's a lot of interest out there as well as within, and I'm just struck as a comment more than a question. Is how we marry these things together that it's really going to be a very big challenge, it seems to me.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a long piece of work, because there's a number of assets. The list is quite a long list of assets. Some of them are pieces of land in places that arguably might have less interest. Others are recognisable buildings and areas of the town, as well as open spaces that are probably going to have more interest. So I think rather than trying to amass a whole list of all the things we want, the way that Lewis would prefer us to do it is to go after the ones that we're most interested in first. So go forward in tranches of groups of assets. The other thing that the paper talks about is that we could potentially put packages of assets together. So if we were interested in acquiring a income generating asset and were willing to take on a costly asset with it as a package, that would have more chance of being agreed than just taking on the income generating asset. So it is going to be a big piece of work, and we have to move at a relative pace because it has to be done before Lewis is dissolved on the 1st of April 28. But we've got a couple of years to do that, we just started. This is very much the beginning of a conversation. As I say, Lewis only set out this framework on the 5th of June.
Thank you. Councillor Meek.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder whether we ought to be aware of, if looking at it from the other way, Lewis District Council's perspective. What we have to maybe understand why and how they're thinking of getting rid of these assets, if indeed they are. I understand that there is an issue with councils not being seen to be asset stripping before an inventory is created. So there has to be some kind of balance they've got. And it may be that we end up with the things that aren't particularly valuable, because they've got to be seen to be keeping things that are money generating for a unitary. So maybe we need to go for everything, but with the realisation or the awareness that we will not get quite a majority of it that may be worth quite a lot to an incoming unitary, which the LDC will have to be seen to be giving fair dues to.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way it's been described to me is that we need to put a business case together. Once we know all of the various facts and figures and due diligence of each asset and understand the cost and the income and whether there's TUPE arrangements involved and all the rest of it, we then have to make a business case to Lewes District Council for each of those assets. And their strategic property board will then review those business cases and decide if they want to put it forward to Cabinet or probably full council. So I don't think they would want to receive an application for everything. It would need to be done on a case-by-case basis. But if there were two, say, I don't know, something that made a lot of money and something which cost a lot of money or needed a lot of investment, and we married them together and made the case that we take them both together, then that, I'm led to believe, would also be something which they might consider. But the overriding element of this as well is that they need to be careful that it doesn't affect the council tax rate in Seaford significantly.
Yeah.
And of course the whole housing stock is off limit. So that's not part of the strategy.
Thank you.
I have to say that when I saw this, I did wonder about the timescale, and I did wonder whether this was an appropriate time for a working group, bearing in mind this is potentially over the summer, and that we know that trying to get five working group members, councillors together to even discuss anything is really quite difficult, and that there seem to be important facts that need to be established before, like maps, etc., that before councillors can have any sort of discussion. So I have been talking to the clerk about maybe a different arrangement that we might be able to have with this, and instead we are suggesting that we delete recommendation 2, and that instead we approve officers to compile a list. What was this?
Well, it's basically to approve officers to oversee the process. It's effectively changing officers' recommendations.
Yeah. So essentially, instead of a working group, we are asking officers to prepare the baseline and to come up with an options appraisal. And I wondered if councillors felt that that was more appropriate in terms of timing and actual organisation. And if that's the case, I'm happy to propose that. Do you want that as a set of words? So this is I'm proposing that we delete recommendation 2, and instead of approving a working group, that we approve officers to oversee the process of identifying potential district council assets that the town's council may be interested in, and to compile a list of information and an options appraisal. Is councillors happy? You're happy to second that, Councillor Taylor, or are you?
Absolutely. Could I just add another aspect to this that is of concern? But I want to support that plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
It sounds like a great idea. I just wondered whether you could flesh out what you mean by options appraisal. So you're thinking that we have the list of areas, and then we might have views.
Because he suggested this for all of the routes.
So I mean, I think through the chair, I think rather than trying to organise lots of meetings of working groups of councillors through the summer, what's being proposed is that we identify perhaps the first tranche of assets that might be of interest to the town council, and then get the information from Lewes District Council, which are the facts and figures behind that, so that we can then bring that first tranche of potential assets to full council in October, which full council can then decide whether or not you want us to pursue or not as a first step. And then it might be that there's another tranche after that. Until we know the facts and figures behind each of these assets, it's going to be difficult to make a recommendation whether we want to take them on or not. So we don't know how many there's going to be. It might be a handful, it might be 30. We don't really know yet. But the idea is to come up with a sort of tranche of the first group and then put that forward so as officers rather than as a working group, given it's got to go through full council anyway. That's the proposal.
Councillor Marquardt and then Councillor Borman.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity and the response concerning the working group. I think it seems very realistic. I would make a suggestion, though, that it doesn't go only to full council and it maybe could go to assets and facilities first, because I think it does need discussion with councillors, and then it's had two bites of the cherry, because when you have a very big issue that just comes to full council and you have a very packed agenda like we have tonight, it will never get a really good airing. So I think that there should be an opportunity for councillors to have a bit more space to discuss it, which is what we've actually agreed with many topics this year in the new restructure of councillors' committees. So I would prefer that it at least went somewhere, either to a small group that you could amass quickly just to have an informal discussion about it and then come to full council, or that you take it to an assets committee.
Do you have anything to add?
Just that it feels that it should be under a committee, that it should.
Yeah. Okay, but we definitely need more focused information so that we can make a more focused decision in a time scale. Councillor Borman, then Councillor Dubois.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Some ways in the same lines as Councillor Markwell, but what I was thinking was maybe can we, as councillors, all be emailed this list of assets that they've got, and maybe councillors can then get back to officers with maybe which ones they would really like to take forward in this first trance, and then that way all councillors have got an input on what might be, and then obviously it goes to a committee to then be discussed more and then back to full council.
There's no reason why not. Sorry.
Is assets, is there an
Yeah,
asset?
I mean, we'd have to call it.
meeting?
I think unless we're going to, the problem we've got is that the assets and facilities meeting is in 2 weeks' time, and then there's not another one until after the next full council. So that doesn't work. I mean, we could obviously try and liaise with Councillor Honeyman, see if she's prepared to call an extraordinary assets and facilities meeting, which then could be recommended to full council. You know, I mean, it's not a job that needs to be rushed per se, but it might well be that after the first tranche, there's another tranche and another one, and we don't want to delay things too long. So, I mean, I can liaise with Councillor Honeyman and see if she's willing to call another assets and facilities meeting.
That sounds reasonable. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. It's a new point, I'm still on this topic. I'm struck by when the members of the public were here, that's all that they wanted to talk about. So we do need to absolutely think about things like confidentiality, because as soon, you know, I can imagine if names of councillors get out about who's doing what in relation to this whole discussion, that we then will start to get lobbied individually, privately, in some one way or another. I think it's just, and it may be this has already been discussed, it's just a process. It's going to need quite careful management in terms of confidentiality. It is my view.
Thank you. Councillor Marquardt, is this extra because we are?
Yeah, only very
time is it
it's only very small. It's only very small. It's a comment,
yes.
Just to say that understanding that this process is going to go on and on with bundles of assets. But once we've gone through the first one, we'll kind of get an idea of the process. So we'll be learning through it. So actually it could exponentially get quicker for us. We just need to have the opportunity to have that longer discussion. And it may well be that we have a longer discussion at the beginning as we get our heads around the process, and then we kind of pick up the process a little bit at pace as the year goes on. So I'm trying to be optimistic.
Thank you. Right, so I'm going to suggest that we need to propose an amendment as...
Sorry about my
sorry, I do apologise.
So I'm happy to look at to work with any amendment you put forward, but I think it's important we add the statement that the Downs and Walmer Road need to be added to Fields in Trust, because that seems to have escaped the discussion
Well, they're not ours at the moment.
They're not ours.
Or should they be?
That's
You know,
a
to
separate
consi-
issue.
So we are considering acquiring them, and upon acquiring them, we add them to the Bills in Trust.
I mean, I
Words to that effect.
Sure, I think that would be a
that's a
requirement
separate
of Lewis
issue.
District Council
Yes,
anyway,
I don't-
from what
I
they've
don't
said,
think
in
we
that
can.
if open spaces were to be transferred, they would look to secure them as open spaces, either as fields in trust or via the neighbourhood or local plan. I think that's actually detailed, so I think it would probably be already covered if we took them on. That's my understanding.
Thank you. Okay, so I would like to suggest an amendment as I previously spoke to delete the recommendation 2 and the quote, which I'm hoping you can read back to me, Georgia, about instead of a working group to officers.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I captured the proposal was to amend motion 3 to say to approve that officers oversee the process of identifying potential LDC assets that the town council may be interested in and compile a list of information and options appraisal for consideration.
I'm happy to propose that. Can I have a seconder, please? Anyone happy? Thank you, Councillor Mead. All those in favour? The amendment's passed. Thank you. Right, so we're going back to the recommendations. So can I have a proposer to note the contents of the report, please? Councillor Lord, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Markwell, and the new recommendation. Those in favour. So, those in favour. Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, so that amendment is passed. As now we need to vote on the amendment that we just voted for, if that makes sense. Okay, I propose it, the seconder, Councillor Meek, those in favour, thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. So the amendment is passed as well. Right, so item 20 is an introduction of a strategic. So Councillor Matthews has already requested that he leaves, so we know that he's left. Thank you. For Council, introduction of strategic plan refresh to introduce the town clerk's desire to refresh the town's council strategic plan, which we agreed originally in 2023 to last to 2027. By devising a simpler, smart strategy document to guide the remainder of the administration.
Thank you.
Clark.
So, since I've been here, I've had a number of councillors talk to me about the strategic plan, and voices have been raised in terms of that they'd like to see a refreshed version of the strategic plan, and a number of councillors have contributed to that. So the proposal here is that we pull together a working group to look to simplify and smarten the strategic plan, and then bring that forward to full council in October for consideration as a new draft strategy for the remainder of the term of this administration. And I'd welcome any questions.
Councillors. Councillor Markwell.
Hello. I haven't heard from you recently, Chair. I actually approve this recommendation. I do think we do need a working group of councillors for this. I think this is something that we need to be working absolutely in partnership with officers with. So I wouldn't be wanting to recommend that the officers take it on over the summer and then come up with options. I think this is something we need to, really discuss between us, reflect on what we've got, and go forward very strongly with a smart process for the next 2 years. I do think I'd like to see the next 2 years as us actually making things happen, and I think this is the way forward, so I welcome the proposal.
Could you just remind us what SMART stands for?
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time frames.
Councillor Meek.
Yes, I mean, this is probably a good idea. I would like to say, though, that many of us were on a previous working group with the previous town clerk, where we spent an awful lot of time with huge, great sheets of paper writing endless aspirations, and some of the discussions were very good. but I would hope that a subsequent working group, which I probably won't volunteer to be on, would achieve something a bit more smart. We tried to deal with smart, ideas as well, but it didn't obviously get to be reduced enough to be achievable. So I'll just hope that, yes, give it another try, but it was a lengthy process before.
Any further comments or questions? Right, so we're being advised to consider the outline proposals and ask questions, to agree on 5 members to form part of the working group, and to move on a vote on the motions. Now, how do you wish us to arrange the 5 members? Do you want us to do that
if possible.
now? Okay. So, would anyone like to put their names forward to be on this working group as of now?
Can I just ask of what time and day that this working group may possibly meet?
The plan is to try and meet dynamically so that we can, get some work done through the summer. We're aware of the fact everyone's probably going to be on annual leave at periods of time, but we're looking to try and meet often, but when it's suitable for councillors and officers.
Daytime, evening, or don't know.
For a preference for daytime, but that doesn't mean we can't meet in the evening. Just because of, if I imagine lots of officers involved in it, then lots of officers don't want to work in the evenings at the same time as having worked all day, and and there's loo time and stuff like that. So preference for the daytime, but that doesn't mean we couldn't do it towards the end of the day, for example, where councillors might be able to join in after work potentially.
Right. So can I have a show of hands of those who would consider their names to go forward for this working group? So Councillor Markwell, thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Borman, Councillor Buchanan. So we've got 3. Councillor Duba. I'm aware that there are quite a lot of councillors who are not able to be with us today.
7 right here, so it could be.
So we could perhaps, go and ask them to see if anyone else from the group who have given their apologies for tonight, maybe we could get them to see if someone else from that group could make up the numbers. So thank you very much. Have we noted those names? Thank you for volunteers. That's very kind and generous, because we know it's not easy. So, what want me to do? Sure. Okay. So having done that, I'm going to suggest that I take... Oh, sorry, Councillor Buchanan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Does this mean we'll finally get an assets tour?
Sorry, do you really want one?
Been on the bus. Sorry.
I'm not sure if...
I'm not sure this is really related, but...
I'm not sure if it's related to the strategic plan necessarily, but it's certainly something which we could organise for you, Councillor Buchanan, if it was something you
I'm
wanted.
very interested to do that.
I know it's a subject very close to your heart, so we will note it. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Right, so I'm going to suggest, in the interest of time, that we take all these 3 recommendations together. We're recommended to approve the establishment of a strategic plan refresh working group. That's quite a mouthful. To approve the working group to devise a new draft strategy document, and to request the new draft strategy document is brought to full council in October. So you're going to have your work cut out for this for consideration. So can I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Markwell. A seconder, please. Councillor Borman. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you very much. Those against?
Are you going?
No.
Oh, you're coming back.
Come for break.
Right, okay. Anyone against this proposal? Any abstentions? So I can confirm this is passed unanimously. Thank you. Right. Okay. Yes. So we have a 10-minute break now. Does that feel appropriate? We'll suspend standing orders. 10 minutes. Thank you. Right. So we are now on agenda item 21. Is that correct? Yeah. To consider report 4525, presenting the annual review of the Town Council standing order policy document as recommended by the Finance and General Purposes Committee. And this is page 224. And we'll be asked to consider the proposed standing orders policy document and ask any questions, and then move to a vote on the motion. And I'll be asking for votes for both of them at the same time. And this is over to you, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think all I'd just highlight really is that this, the review of the standing orders has come through the F&GP committee, and there was a very good, healthy discussion on the standing orders at that committee. Within the report, we have addressed some of the discussion points that committee raised, some of the queries, and then explained some of the investigation we've done and kind of the outcome of that. I think the only other thing I'd highlight is that there is an ongoing piece of work looking into the process around a councillor's vacation of office if they're absent for 6 months, and kind of logistically how that works in practice in terms of council or committee accepting a councillor's apologies, and that in effect resets that 6-month clock. So we just need to kind of better understand that process and then look at how we, if we need to write that into policy somewhere. So we've not been able to do that for this review, but that will be an ongoing piece of work to happen to come back at a later date.
Councillor Dubai, as the Chair of Finance and General Purposes, do you have any comments or wider description to give her now?
No, the only things we discussed was the 6-month rule, and we concluded that we can accept or not accept apologies at meetings, and that the comments to Lewis District have been deleted, but in the report it says that there's no consequence to that. So we were happy to proceed on that basis.
Excellent. Any further comments or questions? No. On that basis then, we note that we are asked to consider the revised policy and to move for a vote, and I will ask that we vote on both of these together to adopt the standing orders policy as presented in report 4525, and to note that work is continuing by officers to review criteria and the process around a councillor's vacation of office by failure to attend meetings, the consideration of apologies at town council meetings, and the linkage between town council policies. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Dubar, seconder, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Nobody. Any abstentions? Nobody. That's passed unanimously. Thank you. Right. We're now moving on to committee membership requests. Item 22, and this is page 261. So, this is to appoint members to committees with vacancies and delegate power to the town clerk to fill uncontested vacancies following on from the annual meeting of the town council each municipal year. So this is really just to make life more straightforward, so it doesn't have to come, these proposals don't have to come back to town council. So we're asked to consider the contents of the report, to invite any nominations from councillors to join committees that have outstanding vacancies, and if delegated power is approved, members can email the meetings at the Seaford Town Council to request to join a committee for an outstanding vacancy, and to move to a vote on the motions below. So can I pass to Georgia for further comments and clarification? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I've got much more to add to that, other than just to say 2.3 of the report sets out the requests that we've had from Councillor Taylor and Councillor Horrow for the committees they'd like to join. So just to confirm, they're the appointments that are being made this evening. And then, as the Mayor's pointed out, there's the seeking delegated powers, so the town clerk can then fill the remaining committee vacancies, of which there are still quite a number. So it's going to be a helpful delegation, and obviously we have a new councillor potentially joining next month, so you'll then be able to appoint them to committees so they can start kind of straight away, really. But, yeah, over to council.
Any further comments or questions by councillors? Okay, I'm going to suggest that I take the two votes together. One, the recommendation to approve the appointment of one additional member for the GOSCA committee, and 1 additional member to all of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, the Assets and Facilities Committee and the Appeals Committee for the remainder of the 2025-2026 municipal year, and to also delegate power to the Town Clerk to fill in uncontested committee vacancies after the annual meeting of the Town Council each municipal year. So can I have a proposer for that, please? Councillor Borman, thank you. A seconder, please. Can we have it? Councillor Markwell. Those in favour, please. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? No. Once again, we have a unanimous vote. Thank you. Right. We're now moving on to cycle racks. So at least we're getting a little bit more interest and variation in this. Okay. So this is to seek the full council's approval to acquire a new cycle rack through Lewes District Council's cycle parking rack grant scheme. That's quite a mouthful. To be located in the Crouch. And we're being advised to consider the report and ask questions and to move on a vote of the motions. Over to you, Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously this probably appears to be a very low level, a very small amount of money, but it does involve the council taking on potentially a new asset, so it has to come to full council. Apologies for the fact that it says recommendation 2 is empty. That's a typo. There is only 1 recommendation. So basically the paper lays out that there is a scheme that's currently live with Lewes District Council. We've managed to obtain an extension until tomorrow if we want to submit an expression of interest, and there's £1,000 available for grant funding to provide a cycle rack within the Crouch. A number of Crouch stakeholder representatives have made contact with me to request that we put in a bid or expression of interest for this money, and hence the reason why this is brought forward to full council this evening. So I'd invite any questions.
Councillor Meek and then Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you. I would obviously welcome this proposal. The only thing I would hope is that it says in brackets that the suitable location will be determined by officers. I presume it will be determined by officers in consultation with stakeholders of the Crouch to find a mutually agreeable location, as opposed to just officers deciding arbitrarily. I'm sure that would be the case.
Okay. Councillor Buchanan?
Thank you, Chair. Is it just a single cycle rack that we can apply for, or could there be multiple?
I think it's a group. I don't know what the expression is, but when you get a group of cycle racks together in one unit,
I understand that, so you might have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's a cycle rack.
Yeah.
When we had a visit down to Councillor Lee, Councillor Bristow and Paul Constrom, we went down to have a look at locations for cycle racks at the source, and there was more than one viable location, and also the Seaford Community Partnership cycling report actually noted a number of other spaces that would be ideal for cycle racks. So I suppose my thought here is this: if it's only one that we can apply for now, this shouldn't necessarily be the end of it. If we can apply for more than one now, then maybe we should give that some thought to.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? No, then I shall move to the recommendation, and it is only 1, not 2, to agree that the Town Council takes on ownership and future maintenance of a new cycle rack to be installed in the Crouch, subject to external funding being sought from Lewes District Council, parking rack grant scheme, and necessary permissions obtained. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Meek. A seconder, Councillor Dubar. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Any against? No. Any abstentions? No. We therefore have a unanimous decision. Thank you. So I'm now moving to agenda item 24, which is the exclusion of press and public. In accordance with the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting during the discussion on the remaining items of business for the reasons as set out in the agenda. Can I have a seconder to this proposal, please? Councillor Markwell. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Anyone against? No abstention? Any abstentions? Sorry. No abstentions. I therefore confirm that this is passed.
Okay.
And we will exclude the public.
Lovely.
Thank you.